the mid-level healthcare worker plays a critical part and role in the health service delivery throughout all levels of care, specifically at the primary care level. And to this extent, we have expanded the capacity of our medical training colleges to train this critical mass of health experts from 28 KMTC campuses in 2013 to the current 71 campuses spread across 44 of our 47 counties. My administration has also put in place a comprehensive nationwide program to upgrade selected hospitals in all the 47 counties through provision of specialized modern state-of-the-art medical, diagnostic, and critical care equipment. Through the Managed Equipment Services project, whose objective was to improve access to quality specialized healthcare services throughout our country. Under this project, we have identified and equipped 115 hospitals with various theater equipment, 101 hospitals with various radiological and imaging equipment, 14 facilities with ICU equipment, and 54 facilities installed and commissioned renal equipment for dialysis. Through this massive investment, 628,000 people have benefited from theater services, 587,000 people have benefited from dialysis out of the 577 dialysis machines installed, and 23,574 people have benefited from ICU services, and over 5.7 million Kenyans have been served using the 22 MRI machines, the 214 X-ray machines, the 83 CT scanners, and the 229 ultrasound equipment that we have installed in various hospitals. All these sum investments have so far benefited over 6 million patients and saved our country an equivalent of 131 billion shillings. Ladies and gentlemen, just the other day, I opened the Integrated Molecular Imaging Center at Kenyatta University Hospital. This is not just a first for Kenya, but for our entire sub-region. As a result, many of our citizens suffering from cancer will now have the benefit of early detection, leading to early treatment and cure, thus saving many lives. This, in addition to the millions of shillings that families who would have been forced to travel abroad seeking treatment for their loved ones will now save. 3 other areas have thrived despite the COVID dispensation. The first one is our robust infrastructure development. And indeed, to celebrate our Mau Mau liberators, a 582-kilometer road called the Mau Mau Road is under construction in their honor. And this will be the single longest road constructed in Kenya since independence. It runs through Meru County, from Kieni to Mara, through Embu County, from Kairore to Irangi, through Tharaka County, from Kibuga to Itunguro, and in central Kenya, it runs from Mudhidhi to Kiangwashe, and from Kembe to Mogumo Road. This is longer than the Nairobi-Mombasa Highway by 140 kilometers, and it follows the warpath taken by our Mau Mau liberators as they fought the colonizers. And once complete, travelers on these roads will be able to connect to various parts of the country without necessarily having to pass through Nairobi. Another piece of infrastructure that I believe would make our founding fathers proud is the Nairobi Expressway. This is the largest expressway in Africa, stretching a total of 27 kilometers, running from Mulolongo in Machakos County to Rironi in Kiambu County. And from Rironi, plans are underway for another dual carriage that will soon be launched that shall run all the way to Mau Summit, traversing the Rift Valley. In total, we have had 7,991 kilometers of new tarmac road with an additional 4,800 kilometers currently under construction. The major flagship road projects include the Isiolo Mandera Road, Garissa Nuno Mudogashi Wajir Road, Lokicha, Lodwa, Lokitang, Nakadok Road, the dualling of the Kenol Sagana Marua Road, the expansion of the Mombasa Mariakani Road, the Garsen Witu Lamu Road, the expansion of Makupa Bridge and approach roads, the expansion of the Athi River Machakos Turnoff Road, the Ahero Kisii Sibania Road, the Kibwezi Mtomo Kitui Road, and the reconstruction of the Kitale Kapenguria Lodwa Nakadok Road to the border with South Sudan, to name but a few. The second area that has also thrived during the last 2 years is the digitization of our economy as a measure of improved governance. In keeping with being architects of their own future, young people drawn from all over the Republic are the driving force behind seminal programs that will revolutionize the way we conduct business in our country. This is a project that has been dearest to my heart, especially in being blessed with the opportunity of engaging and working and seeing the potential of our young men and women when given an opportunity. I will elaborate on this on another occasion, but today permit me to focus primarily on the land sector. For 125 years, our land registry was manually managed and very messy. In fact, some of this mess was deliberate, engineered to facilitate land theft and corruption. But with the help of this youth-led team, we have begun the process of digitizing the land registry. And what has surprised us, as we reference title deeds with geographical coordinates, is the historical fraud that has existed in our land sector. We have found private land titles to roundabouts in major highways, private land titles on airport runways, and all of this because titles were issued without reference to geographical coordinates, or what experts call georeferencing. To stop land fraud, therefore, we are now in the process of cleaning all title deeds to ensure they have a corresponding geographical coordinate, and this will help stamp out the fake title deeds and restore the sanctity of the title deed as envisioned by our founding fathers. The major advantage in digitizing our land registry under the system now known as Ardhi Sasa is that where it took you a minimum of 6 months to do a single land transaction, this has now been reduced to 48 hours or 2 days in the registries that we have digitized. Where once it took 1 and sometimes 3 months to obtain an official land search, the Ardhi Sasa system will give you a land search result in 3 to 5 minutes. And now, with digitization, we have the platform to ensure that every inch of Kenya is mapped and all areas eligible for allocation and issuance of titles have an accurate, secure, and fraud-free system of issuance. It is my belief that after digitization, issues of land titling will be sorted out once and for all. And I say so because my administration has already issued 5.3 million titles under the manual registry in only 8 years. That is equivalent to the number of title deeds issued by the colonizers and the first 3 administrations combined in a total of 125 years. So I believe that if we have achieved 5.3 million titles in 8 years under an archaic system, how much more will we be able to achieve once the national system is completely digitized? Added to this, we have taken the independence-era dream of decent, affordable shelter and used policy instruments and incentives to make it a reality. One such intervention is that anyone registered as a pensioner can withdraw up to 40% of their pension and use it to get a housing mortgage. Additionally, we have exempted first-time mortgage holders from payment on stamp duty, and in addition to a range of incentives for developers who build units under the Affordable Housing Program. Further, and on digitizing our economy, in April of 2013, during my first few months as president, I directed the National Treasury to conduct a detailed survey of all chargeable government services to ascertain how many of these services were paid through digital means. The survey found that over a third of all payments to government were cash-based, presenting a high opportunity for leakage and abuse of the system. In one case, 60% of revenues were spent on making collections. By launching the e-Citizen platform in August of 2014, 350 government services have now been migrated to the e-Citizen platform. And in the 7 years since its inception, the e-Citizen has served a total of 27.2 million unique customers and collected over Kenya shillings 87.1 billion in revenues. Fellow Kenyans, our forefathers' quest for a just and fair nation for all will only be truly realized when we have every single service delivered through a transparent and accountable channel. Therefore, digitization is an important part of our endeavor to improve delivery of government services. Digitization aims to eliminate the duplication of efforts in data collection, processing, storage, and production of identification documents, which has been a feature of government operations since the dawn of our republic. Our policy interventions will also enhance the security of the current ID card through the implementation of a microchip electronic identity card that mitigates against emerging security threats such as identity theft, fraud in financial transactions, and the creation of false identities that are utilized in terrorism and other major crimes. This improved identity card will also be used as a secure travel document within the East African region. To those of you, my friends, who are used to analog systems in order to facilitate corruption, I tell you that the end is nigh, notwithstanding how many court orders you procure, hii itafika mwisho. To all Kenyans, for us to achieve most of these things under the COVID restrictions, I want to thank you. Without your civic responsibility, innovation, and resilience, none of this would have been made possible. From very early in the COVID crisis, I appeal to you to be your brother's keeper and to exercise restraint as we navigate through this unfamiliar enemy. And all of you, each and every Kenyan, made us proud by doing this. The vision of our forefathers was a nation free of ignorance. The remnants of ignorance will only be uprooted from our midst when we continuously build the capacity of our citizens to remain abreast with the demands for a rapidly changing world. It is against this backdrop that we instituted reforms in our education sector that led to the introduction of the competency-based curriculum, or CBC. As a mark of this seminal transition, we now have 2 cohorts of children in pre-primary and 5 cohorts of our children in primary school who are the pioneers of this groundbreaking curriculum. The grade 5 cohort has only 1 year to go before they join junior secondary school or grade 7. In total, we note that over 8.1 million children are now part of the program. As a caring government, and one that appreciates the solemn duty of the state to prepare every child for their destiny, we will continue enriching the curriculum to ensure that our children sharpen their talent and maximize their opportunities in keeping with our vision for a holistic growth of every child in Kenya. And to ensure that we adequately prepare the country for the next phase of CBC, which is the junior high school, and to further facilitate the 100% transition from primary to secondary, I hereby order and direct as follows: that the Ministry of Education, jointly with the Ministry of Interior and the National Treasury, shall establish a framework for the construction of over 10,000 classrooms needed to provide the additional learning space for the 1 million new students set to join junior secondary. That the National Treasury engages Parliament to appropriate 8 billion shillings towards the construction of classrooms, and that the construction of these classrooms be undertaken by local contractors within the vicinity of each school so as to provide further stimulus to local economy, and that the payments for the construction of the said classrooms be remitted directly to the contractors in their respective sub-counties. This initiative will tap into the skilled manpower within the counties, empowering locals with enhanced economic opportunity. And fellow Kenyans, to address the gap of the remaining 10,000 classrooms across the country, I call upon all members of the National Assembly to stand together in solidarity with our children by prioritizing allocation of the CDF towards school infrastructure. The timely program provides additional momentum to my administration's prioritization that no child is left behind in the transition from primary to secondary school. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to build back better, we are witnessing recovery in the economy, with its rebound being attested by all leading economic indicators. They all point to a stronger economic recovery beginning in the present year. This rebound is a result of the gradual reopening of our economy, especially the service sector, coupled with stronger global demand. This recovery is reflected, as I said earlier, in the strong revenue performance for the quarter ending September 2021, which saw our ordinary revenue increase by 25.8% and amounted to Kenya shillings 441.8 billion, amounting to a collection of Kenya shillings 17 billion above the target that had been set. The first and second stimulus packages were designed by my government to ensure that our economy would endure the shocks occasioned by the lockdown measures implemented in the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. With significant progress registered in the containment of COVID-19, I believe it is now time to shift our focus from survival to coexisting with the disease. And in that regard, my administration will be rolling out the third financial stimulus program designed to accelerate the pace of our economic growth and to sustain the gains that we have already made. I announce, therefore, that effective the 1st of November 2021, new stimulus programs targeting the key productive and service sectors in 13 strategic interventions that cover agriculture, health, education, drought response, policy, infrastructure, financial inclusion, energy, and environmental conservation. The first intervention is the tea subsector. To safeguard the gains made by the tea subsector, the National Treasury will allocate 1 billion shillings to support the fertilizer subsidy for our small-scale tea farmers. The second intervention is in the sugar subsector. To safeguard the livelihoods of farmers within our nation's sugar belt, I direct the National Treasury to allocate an additional 1.5 billion shillings in aid of the sugar sector that will be appropriated towards factory maintenance and payment of farmer arrears. The third intervention is the coffee subsector. In acknowledgement of the pace of the ongoing reforms in the subsector, the National Treasury to allocate 1 billion shillings to the Ministry of Agriculture to be appropriated towards the completion of the ongoing interventions in the coffee subsector. The fourth intervention is the livestock sector. Noting the effects of the ongoing drought situation, the National Treasury to allocate 1.5 billion to support the communities affected by the ongoing drought, especially in our ASAL counties, as part of our national livestock offtake program. The fifth, also applying to the livestock sector, and in order to secure a reduction in the prices of animal feeds, I direct the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, jointly with the National Treasury, to issue within 7 days a framework that will facilitate the reduction of the cost of animal and chicken feeds. The sixth intervention is in education. As I have said earlier, and noting the success of our administration's policy on 100% transition from primary to secondary education, Kenya shillings 8 billion to the Ministry of Education for the CBC Infrastructure Expansion Program. The seventh intervention is in health. And to ensure access to medical coverage across our nation, and as part of our universal health coverage program, the Ministry of Health will move with speed to establish an additional 50 new level 3 hospitals to be situated in non-covered areas and densely populated areas across our nation. And I further direct the National Treasury to allocate a sum of 3.2 billion shillings for the immediate construction of these medical facilities, again, using local contractors so that the effect is also felt on the ground, uko mashinani. The eighth intervention is the National Sanitation Program. We started this program to harness the energy of our young people and to give them a buffer against COVID-related unemployment. Noting the success of Kazi Mtaani program and its effect in enhancing opportunities for youth across the country, we direct the National Treasury to allocate Kenya shillings 10 billion for the third phase of Kazi Mtaani to be rolled out in all counties, with priority being given to densely populated areas. The above measures should inject an additional 25 billion shillings into our economy. These new initiatives complement ongoing state interventions that are expected to sustain the momentum of recovery within the year's growth rate projected to be at 6%. The ninth intervention is on energy and petroleum. Being fully aware of the positive strides being made in our economic recovery, the gain stands the risk of being eroded by high energy prices. And to address the plight of our people, I do direct that the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, jointly with the National Treasury, to develop by the 24th of December a framework for stabilization of petroleum prices so as to cushion Kenyans against the turbulence caused by the current volatility in fuel prices, and that B, the Ministry of Energy shall secure the full implementation of the report of the Presidential Task Force on Review of Power Purchase Agreements that establishes a pathway for the reduction of electricity prices by 30% by or before the 24th of December this year. I look forward to Kenyans being relieved of the burden of high tariffs by Christmas Day. The 10th intervention is in the banking sector. The transformation of our economy and the emergence of our nation as a financial hub is as a result of the efficiency secured by technology. The gains we have made in digitization of our financial processes and transactions have made it possible for us to better track and trace illicit flows of money. In view of these, we remain committed to the anti-money laundering and the combating of financing of terrorism CFT frameworks stipulated by the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, POCALMA. These include the requirement for financial institutions to report cash transactions above US dollars 10,000. However, it should also be recognized that the implementation of the framework by banks has been onerous for micro, small, and medium enterprises, and cash still remains an important payment channel for MSMEs, representing 80% of all their financial transactions. Therefore, accordingly, the implementation of the cash transaction requirement by banks has not been facilitative of the operations of MSMEs, and to some extent has inhibited their growth. And in this regard, I further order the National Treasury, after consultation with other stakeholders, to immediately cause the upward revision of the cash transaction reporting threshold from the current mark of 1 million shillings, applicable to both withdrawals and deposits by customers. The financial institutions, however, will retain their reporting obligations to the Financial Reporting Center. The 11th intervention is to access to credit. Over the last decade, we have developed a robust credit information sharing mechanism for the banking sector, which enables Kenyans develop a credit history to enable them access to cheaper credit. This is an important pillar for pricing of loans. The COVID-19 pandemic, however, has adversely impacted businesses, particularly MSMEs, and as one of the COVID-19 emergency measures, we did previously suspend the listing with credit reference bureaus of borrowers whose loans were non-performing at the beginning of the pandemic. This suspension lasted for 6 months, from April to September of 2020, and provided relief, particularly to medium, small, and micro enterprises during the pandemic period. However, some of the MSMEs continue to struggle to get back to a sound footing following the adverse effects of the pandemic. So in that regard, and to further augment the interventions that we are making to give micro, small, and medium enterprises reprieve, I further order the National Treasury, in consultation with stakeholders, to secure the following additional measures to provide further space for recovery of micro, small, and medium enterprises. That the relevant authorities will, for loans less than 5 million, effect a moratorium of listings in CRBs for a period of 12 months to the end of September 2022. And further, borrowers with loans below 5 million and below, listed on the CRB from October 2020 to date, will not have that listing incorporated in their credit reports for the next 12 months ending September 2022. In addition to foregoing measures and to accelerate our economic recovery, I also urge all banks and financial institutions to accommodate customers who seek to restructure their banking facilities. The 12th intervention is digital financial services. In recognition of the importance of digital financing services, especially to the small-scale traders and the household at large, I do direct the National Treasury to engage all digital payment providers with the aim of deepening and expanding the use of the digital payment channels so that people can save more on their wallets and use them more. The 13th intervention is in the area of vaccine production. If there is anything that we have learned, not only as Kenyans but as Africans, from the COVID-19 pandemic, is the essence of self-reliance. As the first step towards this goal, we as a government have established a company to facilitate this venture in the name of Kenya Biovax Limited, and therefore the Ministry of Health should operationalize this company to build a form and fill and eventually manufacture vaccines in our country by Easter of next year. Fellow Kenyans, on the 29th of June 2021, during my 16th address on the COVID-19 pandemic, I pledged to the nation that by Christmas this year, we would have vaccinated over 10 million adults. Today, I am pleased to confirm to the nation that we are on course to realize this target. As of today, we have vaccinated 5 million adults. Owing to the compliance with the health protocols and guidelines on COVID-19, I have further noted with much appreciation that surge of infections has declined over the last 2 weeks, as characterized by the positivity rate of below 5% that has been registered over this period. I once again want to thank the people of Kenya for exercising an admirable degree of civic responsibility in this fight and truly being their brother's keepers. It is, however, important for all of us to appreciate that we are not yet out of the woods, and we must therefore continue to observe the containment measures as directed by the Ministry of Health, as this is the only way to sustain the gains we are making and guarantee the full reopening of our economy. I want to, at this juncture, particularly thank our Interfaith Council for their cooperation in steering the resumption of in-person and congregational worship, and indeed all our health workers and security officers for their commitment to duty during this particularly difficult time. So, fellow Kenyans, the National Emergency Response Committee on COVID-19 and the National Security Council have continued to monitor the evolution of the disease situation within our borders. And therefore, given the progress in containing this disease,